Yeah.
Okay. Oh, maybe it's online. Yes. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to teach. I love teaching, so this is great. As I was saying earlier, this is probably a first for me to have two attorneys. I'll let them. So, all right.
Thank you for letting the sponsor, love working with you. I thought, hey, why not start out with a couple just, easy, layup questions for you. So, Michelle, how long have you been in real estate, for one?
16 years.
16 years, okay.
2006, I started, and then in 2008, Luis quit his job and joined me. Great time. 17 now. Oh, so 17.
Perfect. When did you start truly budgeting to create your wealth?
2006.
2007. Unusual real estate. And then one question, I think I know the answer to this, but how many properties do you currently own?
7. Well, rentals, 7.
Awesome. Good deal. I'll let you take it from here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your great breakfast. If somebody's hungry, feel free to go ahead and jump in. So, Matt helped me a little bit with the introduction. So, for those of you that don't know me, I think everybody pretty much knows me. Michelle Rios, I've been part of Dave Keller Williams office for 17 years now. I started as a single agent, and then my husband joined me 2 years after that. And we have been a team ever since then. Our team has grown, got a little, grown, got a little, and so far, I think him and I are the winners, because that's what it is. Luis and I have been married, it'll be 25 years this year. And we, in 2006, it was a major year for us in many ways, right? So that's a year that he literally pushed me to get into real estate. That's not something I was ever interested in. I'm an electrical engineer. That's my degree. I went to Georgia Tech. I'm a numbers girl, processes in systems. I'm a weird engineer that's a very social butterfly too. Let's focus on the engineering side now. After I graduated from Tech, I started an interior design company. Luis traveled all the time. He worked for a German company, and he was out of the country for about 2 weeks out of the month. I was by myself here. I have no family here. My friends, but most of my friends were a little older than me, so they had kids. So, you know, we got married really young. So we've been always kind of age-wise behind from where our friends are at, right? So when Luis traveled, Michelle would kick into HGTV mode, and I would always like be painting her house. I know how to sew, so I would sew new curtains, I would do this, I would do that. When Luis came, he was like, what happened? What happened? And so through that, somebody said, why don't you start an interior design business? I'm like, what? Like, I'm an engineer, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, but look at what you do. I'm like, okay. So I was taking a tennis class, and this one lady asked me, so what do you do? My chance. I'm like, I do interior design. Oh, would you come to my house? I'm like, what? Okay. So that's how I started. I ended up building that business and doing like full remodels and full construction. I had all my crews, you know, everybody, my painters, my general contractors. And then Luis read this book about financial freedom. And in that book, obviously, it said that real estate was supposed to be part of your financial freedom plan. So he said, why don't you go through real estate? I'm like, no, I'm happy with my interior design. When we travel, whatever we do, I don't like sales. I'm never gonna sell anything. I suck at sales. No, that's not something I'm interested in. And then one day, whoop, okay. Then one day, he comes,
Hang you up.
yeah. One day he comes and he says, hey, do you have like any special plans like for the following weeks? I'm like, what are you talking about, like special plans? He's like, well, I registered you for the real estate fund. I'm like, well, thank you very much. I will go to the class. I love learning. I love reading. I love learning. Like, I will go to the class. I will never sell real estate. I told you that I don't like sales. I don't want to be part of that. And he's like, okay, that's okay. Well, as a side note, the weekend before my real estate school started, I went to one of my friend's baby showers. I told you that we were kind of behind everybody else in our world. And I always like to wear high heels. Today I'm wearing high heels. I used to wear them quite a bit taller though. And at the baby shower, there was a long wooden bench. Somehow the bench tipped over and fell on my toes. I broke my nose. Both my feet. So I started real estate school, sitting at the front of the class with both my feet up and quite a bit of heels. So that's when we started into real estate. At the same time that was happening, Luis, now I'm thinking about he gets us in a lot of trouble. He was driving, we lived in Dunwoody, we've always lived in Dunwoody, and he worked in Blinder, close to Athens, right?
Wow.
Plus he went to Georgia, so it's okay, he went. So on his drive, that was a 45-minute drive each way, right? So he would go and see how many billboards you think. 50, I don't know how many. So one of these billboards was talking about this guy called Dave Ramsey. How many of you know Dave Ramsey? Most of you, great. The class will be so much easier today. So he saw this billboard about this guy saying, you know, get out of debt, financial freedom, blah, blah, blah. So obviously he was kind of in a role, right? Financial freedom was somewhere in his head. And so he's like, hey, I looked at this billboard, let's check out this guy. And we were like, okay, so we checked out the guy and we found that he had a program called Financial Peace University. Back then, that was a 13-week class that we went to and kind of got your finances in order. Some background on us, right? We were really young. When we got married, I was 22 when we got married. I was in the middle of college when we got married. I'm originally from Mexico, for those of you that don't know. Luis is from Panama. He moved to the US when he was 18 to go to college here, right? So we both come from good families. Like neither one of us had struggles growing up. Neither one of us had to work while we were growing up. We were very fortunate to come from good, wealthy families in our countries. But we were kind of, you know, we flew the nest, and because of how we grew up, I don't think either one of us ever had some sort of financial status, right? So also culturally, there are some cultural differences, right? From how people normally handle their business in our countries, from how you don't say business, money in our countries, from money here. So again, we were clueless. So I never had a true job, but yet, because I was at Georgia Tech, electrical engineer, a bunch of banks have given me credit cards. Well, how am I supposed to pay that back if I don't have a job, right? Luis, he had a good job. gave us enough money to live, it gave us enough money to travel, you know, do the things we wanted to do. But neither one of us really had any kind of financial education. Dave Ramsey was our first time that we actually had some sort of financial guidance. And the biggest thing we got out of that 13-week program was actually having one plan. Because the way I thought about money and the way I handle money was totally different than what he thought about money and how he handled it. So having to sit down during 13 weeks and make our plan was pivotal in our life and our legacy from now on, right? Well, gives me chills. So anyway, 2006, big year, right? Many changes happened that year. So what I will talk about today, a lot of it is based on Dave Ramsey's theory, right? Because that's how we made it happen. There are many other ways that you can probably get to the same spot, but this is what worked for us. So that's what I want to talk to you about and share with you. Now, there are some things as we have evolved that we have changed, right? There are some things about the Dave Ramsey program that we have tweaked to make it work for where we are right now. Okay, so if you have any questions, if you have any ahas, if you anything that come up during that class, feel free to stop me. If it's something I'll be talking about a little bit later, I will say, hey, let's put in the parking lot because I'm talking about that in a little bit. But any question is valid. We are an open book company, so I'm going to be sharing like real numbers with you.
Looks like there might be a chat or two.
Okay, I can't keep up with the chat. Is someone logged in on the Zoom here that can let me know what's going on in the chat? Please.
Yes, I'll be your chatter.
Thank you. Chat people, we'll get to you shortly. All right. All right, so I already talked about where most of this is coming from, right? So who's Dave Ramsey? I just called him our first financial guru. He went broke. It's also a story that we see all the time, right? Everybody that has gone broke somehow then makes it really happen and teaches everybody else how to do it. So he filed bankruptcy. He actually started writing his book from the back of his heart. He would type it up and sell the book. Type it up, like in a typing machine, typewriter machine.
Did everybody here know what those are?
Now, you know, he developed these 7 steps to help people get out of debt. And now he has this program, Financial Peace University. We actually had the opportunity to teach the program. Lisa and I taught the program here in the office. I think it was like 2009, maybe. And just to give you an idea, I think we had over $100,000 or $200,000 paid off during the 13 weeks that we were in class. From millions and millions of dollars in debt.
With all those people that attended the
Yes.
class, not you personally.
No.
Yeah.
We were out of debt. So, okay. So why do these baby steps work? Well, education. That's what I shared with you, right? None of us, or most likely, none of us have ever had any type of education or on financial literacy. The schools don't teach that. Most parents don't teach that. They're so busy trying to make ends meet and working and taking kids here, there, and everywhere, and whatever, that it's never something that's been ingrained, like, hey, I gotta teach my kids how to work their money and how to save their money and what to do with their money, how to invest their money. It's not something that has ever been done. So the 7 baby steps, that's the number one thing. It's education. You become aware of what's going on. Second, encouragement. It's small wins that generate, like, you know, you're so excited, like, wow, keep going, man, keep going. So just like when you do a checklist, right? When you do a check, like a to-do list of what you gotta do, that you get like really excited every time you check something off, you're like, oh, I'm on to the next, oh, I'm on to the next. It just gets you really encouraged. So same thing. And then empowerment, because then you have the education and the encouragement, and that helps you make better decisions with your money. So that's why breaking everything down in little steps. So that's why the 7 steps work. So what are the 7 baby steps? And we will talk about them individually. So first step is save $1,000 for a starter emergency fund. So what happens if right now we walk out into the parking lot and your car's not starting? How many of us would go into like, oh my God moment? How am I gonna get my car repaired? And if my car's not working, how do I get my family to where I need to go? How do I work to pay for my car to be repaired, right? So $1,000. Step 2, pay all of your debt using the debt snowball. And again, I will explain all of this in detail. 3, save 3 to 6 months in a fully funded emergency fund. 4, invest 15% of your income into a retirement account. 5, save for your children's college fund. If you don't have kids, that goes into your retirement account. 6, pay off your home early. And 7, build wealth and give. Okay, so let's talk about the $1,000. So the goal in the very first step is just get $1,000 as fast as you can. As fast as you can. So what can you do? Give me 3 things that you can do like today, like this week, that by the end of the week, you can have $1,000 in your bank.
Sell clothes, wash cars.
Sell clothes, wash cars. I can't hear you.
Oh, I love that idea.
What are you saying?
I'm not gonna try.
My inside let it out.
Good to say it.
I didn't mean to say it out loud.
Okay. All right, what else? What can your kids do to help get those $1,000?
I think it's about something.
Stop spending, yes.
I have to put my daughter to do a yard sale. I have a lot of.
Yard sale, garage sale,
Good job.
depends on the age, but yes. Dog walking,
Yeah.
Civic center. Yeah.
they can do a bake sale, lemonade stand. Like, there's plenty of things that you can do like instantly. You can go to your closet and get 5 things that you can sell on Facebook Marketplace and get up to $1,000. There is no excuse, absolutely no excuse to not have $1,000 saved by the end of the year. 2 weeks, by the end of, we're in April. If somebody here does not have that, that should be your goal. End of April, I need to have $1,000 in a separate savings account. It does not need to be in your regular checking account where you pay your mortgage, your rent, your car, your groceries, no. It's money that needs to be put away somewhere else where you don't touch it. With our savings account is not in our regular bank, we bank with Bank of America. Our savings account is not in Bank of America. Our savings account is on a Capital One online account. It takes 3 days for me to get money out of that account into our Bank of America account. 3 days. So there's no like, oh, I want this couch. Let's go buy it. No, it's gonna take me 3 days, and by day number 3, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I want the couch. It's gonna stay there. Okay?
So capital one.
Capital One. That's where we have it.
So you made it hard to get in.
Yes. All right. Okay, so we got our $1,000. So how will we also get, like, figure out where are we getting our $1,000? That's when we're gonna sit down and work on our budget. And I know it's like, that means I'm not gonna be able to have my lifestyle. It's the total opposite. You will be able to have your lifestyle because you'll be telling your money where to go and what to do. So right now, if I ask, I don't know, a lot of people like to go to Starbucks, right? You're like, oh, I work very hard. I want my Starbucks every morning because it just gets me up and going. If I ask the average person, tell me how much money are you spending on Starbucks every month? Do you think they'll have a clue? They won't have a clue. So are you telling your money what to do? Do you know, like, okay, this is how much I'm gonna spend on coffee? If you wanna go to Starbucks every day, that's totally fine. What's the average trip to Starbucks? $6 if you only get a coffee? 7, okay. 14, you think it's so much, right? Think you need something. 6. If you take, right, but let's say $6. 5 days a week, that's 20 days, I'm just count a 4-week month. That's $120, that's going to coffee. That I would think that everybody can do at home. With Starbucks coffee, that's what you really like. There's a coffee machine right here. I don't drink coffee, so, I don't know if it's good or bad or whatever, but there is a coffee machine here. O'Kelly Assortment has a great coffee machine across the street. There's plenty of places where you can get your coffee fixed without having to spend $120 a month. And what happens if you save those $120 a month? By the end of the year,
$1,400.
you have at least that, which you're gonna have that by the end of April, but yes. Okay, so budget. So I actually want to share with you, this was our very first budget, October 2003. I'm gonna blow it up now so that you can see that. I told you I was gonna show you real numbers. This was the truth. When Luis and I went through this program, when we had to sit down and write out all our debts, we were almost in $100,000 worth of debt. That included a brand new BMW for me. Credit card debt. I told you our families, we were born into great families. So neither one of us had student loans, right? All our education was paid by our families. So it was stupid debt. That's really what it was. We had nothing. We had our house. We bought our first house in 2000. That was it. We had nothing else except almost $100,000 worth of debt. Following this program, in 11 months, we were totally out of debt. We owed nothing.
Even the car.
We sold it. We made money on it. It was a lease. I lived with the lease that made money on it. That's Luis. All of that street savvy stuff, that's Luis. That's not me. That's him. So, okay. So this was our first budget. Let me go out.
Did that $100,000 include your house rent?
No. It was stupid debt. I told you.
Okay.
It was stupid debt. Okay, October 2006. That was our first budget. So our budget is based on what Dave Ramsey follows, right? The first thing you have to have is like your shelter, right? You don't have a place to live, then you're like in serious trouble. So you will see that the first section, our first section has always been giving. They have always donated money. Our favorite organization is St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We donate a lot of money to them. Just so you know the story of why St. Jude? We didn't have kids at that time, right? We waited 13 years to have Alex. So 2006, Alex was not even in the picture. So Luis's mom, when he came to study in the US, she gave Luis a statue of St. Jude, the apostle, right? Because that's the saint that's supposed to help you with like really hard things. So she said, here, take St. Jude. St. Jude's gonna keep you safe, he's gonna help you through college. So then Luis gets here, and then on TV, they keep talking about this St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of the same thing my mom gave me. So in college, without a job or anything, Luis started donating like $20 a month to St. Jude. And ever since then, we have been donating to St. Jude. And, you know, so anyway, that has always been a number one. You can see back then, $25 to St. Jude every month. Then we had our money going to the emergency fund. How much are we putting? And you can see that in October of 2006, we had $688.95 in our emergency fund. And that month, we were putting $25, no, wait, where am I? We funded it. We funded $688.95. $606.31 came from, so Luis got paid every other week, right? So back then, he was on payroll. And then he had commission money. So that's why on some of the months, if I show you other months, there's gonna be other columns that show extra income, and that was just based on his commissions or bonuses. Or my commissions too, because that's 2006, that's when I started. So it's super detailed. Again, it does not have to be this complicated. I'm a numbers girl. Give me an Excel sheet. I dig it. I love it. But that's me because of my personality and my background. It does not have to be this complicated. Just get a piece of paper out and say, okay, how much is my entire income in a month? What's my family income in a month? And then start writing down shelter. How much do I pay for my house? How much do I pay for groceries? How much do I pay for any HOA dues, right? You kind of create your own little escrow accounts within your budget. Because then what? Yeah, HOA dues, they're due once a year. Back then, where we lived, the HOA due was $2,010, $210 once a year. They were due in April. But what happened if April came and we had a budget for it? We had to get that money out of somewhere. Where was that money gonna come from? Emergency fund. And then the next month, you have to replenish that emergency, because you don't do anything until that emergency fund is fully funded again.
And HOA dues are not considered emergency because you knew they were coming.
Yeah, but
A blown tire.
right, but if you don't have the money, you write it out of your emergency.
But
Mhm.
yes,
So anyway. Savings, housing, utilities, food, auto expenses, clothing, medical expenses, personal expenses, recreation, debts. Those were our debts. Back there. That's what we needed to pay every month on our debts. And I told you it was stupid debt. It was stupid debt. It was mostly credit card debt. And about probably, I have to admit, about half of it was probably mine. And I didn't have a job. But yet, I had a credit card. Scary, huh?
I think we all want.
He loves me a lot, yes, he does. So, however, there are plenty of tools to help you create a budget. Now, this is something you have to do as a family. If you are, if it's you and yourself, me, myself, and I, then you sit down and you do it. If you're just a married couple or a couple, then you and your partner sit down and do it. Everybody has to be on board. Because what happens if I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get my Starbucks anymore, I'm gonna go get the office coffee, okay? But I know that I have the end in mind, right? I know I'm gonna save, I'm gonna create wealth, but your partner goes out to drink with his buddies every Friday and spend triple what you would spend on a coffee. It's gonna get to a point where you're gonna be like, that's not gonna work. Everybody has to be on the same page. And if you have kids, they have to be on the same page too. They have to understand. And it's hard. It's hard. It's hard not to try to keep up with the Jonases. Oh, my friends have the cool Nike whatever jacket that everybody wants now. It's $130. $130 for a hoodie. Makes me sick to my stomach. That's the cool thing, like, that's what they want. Or, oh, all my friends have their Louis Vuitton, I want one too. Let me tell you something, no, I love it, but. I'm gonna go get my Louis. And I walk into the store and I walk out. I don't know, I can't do it, I can't just. Someday I'm like, yeah, afford it, no issues buying one, I don't even need a commission check to go buy it, I can do it. But there's so many things that when I'm there, I'm like, oh, well, this can pay for this trip, this can pay for this can pay for another rental property, this can, you know. So, I love your movie though.
Thank you.
Well, no,
Let's get a bank one. Get a bank one.
okay, all right. Okay, so this is not part of the Dave Ramsey class at all. This I learned from Andy and Leslie Peters. They talk about this and it makes sense to me, right? So I just wanted to share it with you guys. And it's, okay, you have your budget now. What do I do with the money? Like, how do I not commingle my money, right? Because we're talking about personal stuff now, but we all have a business too. And your business needs to run the same way that you're running your personal finances. The exact same way. So we get a commission check, right? That commission check should go into your operating business account. Operating business account. What happens when that money is there? Well, of course, Michelle has an Excel sheet that tells her what amount goes to where and what amount stays where. And I'm happy to show it to you if you want to see it. So the 5 buckets, you should have a savings account for taxes. There is no way around it, guys. We have to pay taxes. Get a great accountant, get a great financial planner that can help you minimize your liability, and don't see the tax code as a way to penalize you. See the tax code as a guide on how to not pay. Change the way you look at things. So have an account, separate, Capital One, off reach, where you say, figure out, call your accountant or whoever and say, what was my tax bracket last year? And let's say it's 25%. Okay, so 25% of your commission check goes into that saving account, and it's what? It's off the table. You're not gonna touch it anymore until next year when you have to file your taxes. Second thing, then you have your business operating account. You keep 2 months of business expenses in that account. You don't need any more. But to know that, you have to know what are your business expenses. And to know that, what do you have to do?
Budget.
A budget. Your agent bill. Some money for, expenses. Taking out a client to coffee or dinner or whatever the case might be. Figure out what your monthly business expenses are, keep 2 months in that account. Everything else goes into a business savings account. That business savings account has to have 3 months of your monthly expenses. You are a business. You need money to run your business. If you don't have money to run your business, you will have no business and you will have no money to put in buckets. So 3 months into a savings account, Capital One, away from your easy to get money. Then you have a personal operating account. That's where you pay your mortgage, that's where you pay your groceries, activities, necessities. Okay? And then you have a personal savings account. That personal savings account has no limit. You want as much money to go into that account, because that is the account that's gonna build your wealth. That's gonna be the account that's gonna help you support your lifestyle. That's gonna be the account that's gonna help you create a legacy. So how many accounts do we need?
5.
5. We have about 17 different accounts. These are basic ones, I'll give to you. And then each of our other business has a separate account. So each of our rental properties has their own account. Everything that's a separate entity that we need when we report our taxes, or where we want to find out, is this paying us money or are we losing money, has a separate account. It just makes it complicated in the sense that you have to keep up with all these other accounts, LLCs, whatever. Yes, it does have an extra workload to it, but it makes it so easy to say, okay, I'm gonna focus on this one business right now. Let's see what's it going. I mean,
This is all within the same bank, and then you just open up like separate, I guess, what, savings, you said
you
savings
can do
accounts?
that.
What, how do you do it?
So with our savings are on a separate, that online bank where it takes a couple of days for us to get our money out.
But is that just for your personal savings, or is that all the
All the
savings?
savings.
And then you categorize it based on that?
Yes,
Okay.
because what we want is to not ever have to use them.
Right.
So if we can make it happen with our operating account and we can see, oh, we can get rid of this expense or whatever and just use our operating account, that's what we're gonna do. Our goal is to never, ever have to touch those savings accounts, so we never have to replenish them.
So then, and then you have you have a business checking account, and then you have a business or you have a business checking account, and then you have a personal checking account.
Yes.
What do you use to track everything?
Use
Excel.
QuickBooks. So,
And we have a bookkeeper now, so she. That is Luis's question, because again, I'm the engineer, but we kind of have learned to separate our ways. Luis is really who keeps track of all the rentals, like, I just.
you just put it in Excel, you don't.
As it should be.
So,
You use QuickBooks and then your accountant can, get
Right,
access to it and your.
I've been
that's
using
where
online.
our accountant keeps track of it.
I wanna find something, because I'm not real thrilled with QuickBooks, something different, because if we're like at Home Depot, getting something for, one of the investment properties, and I like to be able to just take the picture of the receipt, go ahead and save it to that whatever it is, and I know you do it in QuickBooks, it's hard, it's, you can't just do it from your phone, or at least. I
Well,
don't know.
another learning, I used to do our books, right? So when tax time came, they didn't see me like for a month, because our house was a smaller house, so I didn't have a lot of space, so I was either in here, or I would take Alex to the Y and put him in the childcare at the Y, and I would go sit in the library and just like receipt galore. I'm trying to do everything until I'm like, that's it. I'm not gonna do this anymore. That's when we hired our payroll. But I did do it on QuickBooks. Now, our rental properties, I don't think I have the Excel sheet for that. Luis does that. Luis keeps up with the expenses on our rental properties on an Excel sheet. Because there's not many expenses. So he just keeps up with it and provides that to our accountant, and that's what she uses for when we have to. Okay, any more questions? Nothing on my chat, girl? Is there something on the chat?
Nope. Someone loves the St. Jude story.
Oh. Okay, step 2, pay all your debt with your debt normal. All right, so we already did our budget and we figured out that we were able to cut our expenses. And actually, I'm gonna get something for you from my office. You have a 1 second break. So I can show you. I forgot to bring it. Okay. This came from our financial, yeah.
Is it okay if we make the PowerPoint in like presentation mode so we can see the slide?
Yeah. I'm sorry,
It's okay.
I took it out to. Take it one.
I have a quick question for you before you get started on that. So you had all your different accounts, right? When you were ready to start saving for your first property, you had a separate account for that too?
No, it was, well, we had one big savings account at that point. We didn't have all the buckets, right? We learned about the buckets just a few years ago. So back then, we had 4 accounts. We had personal checking, personal savings, business checking, business savings. So in our personal savings, that's where we were stashing. That's where we were stashing, and then that's what we used. It took a long time. It took us, no, I'll get to the story in a minute, okay? So, once we figured out our budget, right, and I wanted to show you these. These were my cash envelopes. I carried these in my purse. And every envelope, these ones, blow money. This was like our extra money. And for the week of September 17, 2010, we had $60. That was our blow money. Like, hey, you want to go to the movies? Yes, how much blow money do we have? $60, okay. And we would go and get our cash out of here, pay, get the money back in here and report. At any time, we would know. And if it came to the end of the month or whenever, say, hey, you want to go to the movies? Sure, let's go look. Let's say it was $20, right? We have 17. Okay, do we not go to the movies? Or where are we getting the other 3? And a lot of times we borrow from other envelopes that had a little extra to do what we wanted to do. But once the money was gone, no more movies. Look, see? I have my coupons in here. That was Luis's haircut one. Yep, that was haircut. Pedicure. Clothing for Michelle. Clothing for Luis.
We never used there.
But he got more lunch money extra than that.
Christmas gifts. we saved the entire year for Christmas gifts.
And you each had a separate one, didn't you?
No, it was one.
Okay, but did you have some, how did you handle the separate for each other so that you could get something as a gift? for
That
them?
came from, so we
Yeah.
each had a monthly, a weekly allowance that we could use for Starbucks coffee, lunch, whatever. So if we wanted to give a gift to the other one, we had to save from our weekly allowances to make up whatever amount it was.
How much would you put for a week allowance?
I'll have to go back, I don't remember, but I remember Luis and we had different ones. Because Luis had to travel, he had no option of eating at home, so he had a budget for lunches, right? So his weekly allowance was bigger than mine, because he had to eat at a restaurant. Yard maintenance, house cleaning. That's all I have here now.
You got $35 and you got 12 a week for lunch.
So I can't
It
remember.
was on here. It's on-
It was, oh, there
I
you
took
go.
a picture of it because
There
I
you go.
loaded up.
Because that was based on a percentage.
It was based on like, actually, like, okay, how much, so $35. That was a $7 lunch. He had $7 to eat lunch. And then I could eat at home, so I didn't allocate, I just had a couple of, you know,
$12.50.
$12.50. That I could go to coffee with my friends or
So just one.
whatever. So, okay, so once you figure out, let's say you make your budget, you do your envelopes. We had a virtual envelopes Excel sheet, right, where we could, everything that we were saving for, that we didn't really need to have that cash, we would just put it into that sheet. Say, okay, this money we put in $400. Out of those $400, 12 are for my HOA dues. This is for this is for that. We would distribute the money within that account. So at any time we could see, okay, how much money do we have in that envelope? Even though the full amount was in our savings account. Does that make sense? Okay, so once we figure that out, we cut our expenses. The library, they knew us by name. Like, hey, Michelle and Luis, what are you gonna get up now? We saw every Sex and the City DVD from the library, movies from the library, books from the library. If we were sick and tired of that, then we would go to Barnes and Noble and look at magazines there. There are plenty of public events that you can go to for free to have lots of entertainment. We're just lazy. We don't do the research. There's lots of things that you can do for free if you are on a mission, and we were on a mission. So once we figure out how much money we had left over, right? After paying our minimums every month, then we looked at doing the debt snowball. What does this mean? You're gonna take your smallest debt. Doesn't matter what the interest rates are. That's a question that comes all the time. If I'm paying 15% interest here and only 2% here, but the 2% is a bigger debt, you go after smaller debt, you go after the smaller debt. Why do you think that is?
Because you just free up more money to pay for your debt.
You free up your money, accomplishment. Check,
Done.
right? So let's say that you have a minimum payment on a credit card of $20. And then you have another one that's a 50 and another one that's a 100. So you're gonna start tackling the 20. So you're gonna pay the 20 plus however much extra you find after your budget until you pay that off. So now the minimum 20 you were putting to that one goes to the 50. So now you're gonna be paying a minimum of 70 to that one, plus any extra money that you find. And you attack that until you're done. And then you have 70 on top of that 100 you're paying, so it's a minimum 170 you're paying to that, plus any extra money you find on that. And for us, it became a hunt, like we were hunting. Now, I'm much more of a, but if I see something and I like it, I'm gonna buy it. not a Louis, but yes, I will, but Louis is a hunter. He will hunt for the deal like there's no tomorrow. It will take you months to buy something, but I can guarantee you, he's gonna get a great deal. And he can sell it in 2 months, and make money on it. That's just who he is. Which has helped us a lot with this, because he does, even today, if he sees something like that where he can make a little extra money, he still does it today. So anyway, so that's the debt snowball, right? It starts, that payment starts getting bigger and bigger, that money that you're putting towards your debt starts getting bigger, 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 until in December of 2006, we were able to, Dave Ramsey had, I don't know if he still has it or not, had a radio show on Fridays, was like debt snowball day. And if you had paid off your debt, you were able to call into the show and talk to him and scream, I paid all my debt, or I'm debt free, I'm debt free. So we were able to call in on December of 2006 and say, we're debt free. And ever since December 2006, that's the way. The only debt that we have had until last month was our personal mortgage. Last month was the very first rental property that we bought with a mortgage. And that's a new territory for us. So, okay, any questions on the debt snowball? No?
Oh, I have a question. What is that? It's time to pay off the car, so you include your car there for the snowball?
And what I shared was, I had a brand new BMW. It's a white BMW. And then this happened. And guess what? We sold that and we found a 2000 something, I think it was 2003 Honda Accord that we bought in cash. Luis had, well, Luis is a car guy, so he's always had one toy, but it was paid for, so we were not gonna mess with it. And then he had his other car that he bought when he was in college, that I drove for a while, and then when I got my BMW, he went back to that car. And we sold that when Alex was like maybe 5. He had it for almost 20 years, that car. We keep our cars for a long time. So I went from a really cool BMW to a Honda Accord that was reliable, it was cheap, easy maintenance, and we sold it about 4 years ago, right before COVID. Luis drove that.
Yeah, Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one phrase that Dave always says that really always brings me back to what we're trying to achieve is live like no one else, so later you can live like no one else. I always go back to that. Live like no one else, so later you can live like no one else. So yeah, we were the weird ones that were not out spending a lot of money. We were the weird ones that had the, not rundown cars, they were good cars, but they were just not the fancy, newer cars. We were the ones that would prepare meals at home instead of going out to eat all the time. We did a lot of sacrifices up front. But now we have a lot of freedom because of what we did then. So every time you're in a struggle, hopefully that phrase will help you rein it back in. Live like no one else. Who cares if my neighbor has this? Who cares if my friend has that? Who cares? Because guess what? Most likely behind everything that you see, they're freaking broke. They have no money. So, okay. What's next? We have our $1,000. We have paid our debts. Well, guess what? All that money we were using to paying our debts is gonna go now into a savings account. We're gonna have a 3 to 6 months of our living expenses. What will that do for you?
Freedom. That give you a lot of freedom.
Peace of mind. Peace of mind. If I don't sell a house, you know, my mom gets sick, and I have to go take care of her, and I don't sell a house for a month. I don't care. I have a way to pay my business expenses, because you're doing the same thing in your business. You're gonna do your personal first though. And you're gonna save a little bit for your business, have an emergency fund for your business. Once you're done with probably about this step, you can start working on your business a little bit more on having those 3 to 6 months. But you're gonna be okay. You don't sell a house for whatever reason, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. You can invest that money and revamp your business and start making money again. All right. What's next? Okay, we have funded our emergency fund, we have paid our debt, we have our 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank. Well, now we're going to save money for retirement. A lot of people say, no, it's time to save money for college for my kids. They're gonna be going to college pretty soon. Well, guess what? Your kids can go to college and get a loan. It's not ideal, but they can. You cannot get a loan to retire. And if your kids get a loan for college and you don't have money to retire, you're in big trouble, because your kids can't afford to take care of you. Thank you. I went into Spanish one. No, that just happened. So invest 15% of your income. If you can invest more, and remember, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. When you start as soon as you can and start getting that compound interest working for you. So 50% of your household into retirement or more. Once you take care of you, now we go into the college loan. Now you open a 529. Now you open whatever you want, however you want to invest the money that you're allocating for your child's education. And then pay up the house early. That's when we now kind of stepped away from this. And it's circumstantial. We bought our house in December 2020. We have a 2.5 interest rate. I am not going to pay the house that has a 2.5 interest rate when I can make 8 to 10% on an investment on using that money. I will pay my mortgage. I won't even make like an extra payment. I'm going to let that ride because that is free money. Again, it is circumstantial. If you have a higher interest rate, you have a 7% interest rate, well, you might want to consider paying this off and getting your cash out and then going to invest that money. But that's going to be depending on what the situation is. If you're gonna get a better return, where you're pretty much, your interest is free because you're getting a better return somewhere else, then keep it. That's our philosophy, not Dave Ramsey's philosophy, that's Michelle and Luis's philosophy, right now. Okay? Step 7, build wealth and give. That's when it gets really, right? That's the mission. That's where we wanna get to. Any questions? No. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about income, right? To do all of this that we talked about, we need money. We need income. So 2 types of income, active and passive. Active income, that's what we do every day. That's your hourly wages if you have a regular job where you get a W-2. That's your commissions, salary, anything that you actively have to put time and effort, significant amount of time and effort to generate that money. That's your active income.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Your passive income requires little to no effort on getting that money, right?
Somebody's, yeah, I want to be just waiting that part.
Okay, so that can be any interest or dividends from the stock market, from businesses, additional businesses that you own, REITs that are the real estate investment trust, rental income, profit share. Come up with an online class if you're really good at something besides real estate. Do an online class, like record yourself once and then teach the class, promote it on Instagram, charge a fee. You're not doing anything except you recorded it once. You can flip retail products, and this is what I was telling you that Luis loves to do that. I'll give you a quick example. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, he's, as I said, he's a cars guy, so he found this Porsche jacket that he loved. And it was in France, had to buy it online. He got it, he got two, because he wasn't sure of the sizes, because the sizes are a little bit different, so he got two. He tried them on, figure out which one he was gonna keep, and then he said, I'm gonna sell the other one. He sold the other one for quite a bit more than what he bought it for. And he was like, oh, I knew it like that. And he's like, okay. He called the guy in France and said, how many do you have? I don't even know, I think they were 20. Send them all. He bought them all, sold them all. I think we made like $1,500, something like that, just from that. He buys ATVs. We have ATVs at home. We've had them there, I don't even know. Alex was, I think, 3 when we got him keys, so he's 12. So we've had them for 9 years. I know that he's gonna sell them for more than what we paid them for back then. He's good at that. So if you're good at that, or if your partner is good at that, nothing wrong with it. Lending, that's another thing, right? If you have enough money and you have a client that can't qualify for a loan for whatever reason, and you can lend them the money, that's another passive income that you can do, and there is no risk. Because they don't pay, you get the property. There is no risk if you have the money to give them the loan.
Or you could be the hard money lender.
Exactly. Right, which is that, in essence, that's what it is, right? Rent a parking space. If you're in a condo, a lot of people that live in condos get only one parking spot, and some units get 2. But if there's only one, like if you only have one car, well, rent the other one to somebody that needs 2 cars, that needs to park 2 cars. That's so simple. I mean, these are just ideas that I came up with, but there are so many ways that you can generate passive income, and it doesn't have to be, we always, probably because we're in real estate, we always go to rental properties, right? Oh, passive income, that means rental properties. No, it doesn't. There's a whole list of things that you can do that can generate passive income. Okay? All right. So what's next? You need to track your net worth. You need to know what you're worth, how much money you have, how much money you have to invest, how much money you have in retirement, how much money you need on that retirement account to get what you want when it's time to retire. You need to track your net worth. I have a net worth tracker. These are the categories in our assets and liabilities, and net worth, pretty easy, right? Add up all your assets, add up all your liabilities, also known as debts. Assets minus liabilities will give you your net worth. So I didn't do this Excel sheet for once. I went onto Excel and in the templates typed net worth, boom, it came up and I just filled it up. And it's really pretty because I do like the colors. So I'll show you what it actually looks like. I'm getting rid of this. Okay. So this is it, again, it's just it's an Excel template. So you fill out your assets, so, okay, let's say I have 10,000 in my checking account. I have, I don't know, on my savings, I have 30,000, or did I do 3 million, however much? On my IRA, I'm gonna have 200,000. My cars are worth 50,000. My home is worth 600,000. And do 6 million? Yeah, I moved into a nice house. And then my liabilities. Okay, I probably owe like a big nice house. Where is it?
But it's only 2.5%, so.
But it's only up to 2%. So I'm going to owe, I don't know, 400,000 on it. That's 10% down. Whatever, you know, that's the only thing I would have, right, as a liability. That's truly our net worth. That's the one line item that it has on the liabilities. So I go back to my dashboard, boom, I'm worth $1,160,000. And then you go every month. And you update every month, and you update every month, and you update. If you don't know your money, you're not gonna be able to manage your money. If you don't tell your money what to do, just think of it as a child. If you don't tell your kids what to do, well, what are they gonna do? Nothing. Right? Same with money. You tell your money what to do for you. It's your hard-earned money. You direct it. Okay. All right. So know your net worth. So now we'll talk a little bit about our stories. You were asking if it took us too long. So in 2010, February 2010, we were getting ready to go to family reunion. It was in New Orleans that year. We drove the Honda Accord to New Orleans, 8 out of 6, depends who's driving, 7-hour drive in average, to get to New Orleans. We came in here and I was back in the office picking up stuff, business cards or whatever we needed to get on the ride. Our car was packed, ready to go. And Luis was walking by the front desk and there was an agent that used to be part of the office that, think 2010, right? A lot of foreclosures, REOs, that kind of thing. We had an agent in the office that he sold FDIC property. So FDIC property was kind of like a double whammy. It was a double foreclosure. That's how I saw it, right? Because the bank foreclosed from the owner, and then the FDIC, not foreclosed, but took over the bank that went down. So he walking in, and this agent was talking about these properties that he was listing in Carrollton, Georgia. I had no clue that Carrollton even existed. I don't know. Didn't know where that was. And Luis happened to walk by at that time, and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And by that time, we had some money saved that we were like, "Okay, I think it's time to like do something with it." So Luis walked by, he's like, "Oh, let me see." Printed the FMLS sheet, gets in the car. We start heading to New Orleans, and he's like, "Guess what? I just walked by, Jason was talking about this." And I'm like, okay, so the only thing we had in our hand was the FMLS sheet. It was this building right here. It's six townhomes, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. They were brand new. So the builder developed that community. And that was the very last building that they were getting ready to sell. They never really got to sell it. Everything else was sold. The bank went south, FDIC recovered it, and they were selling that whole thing. New construction. I'm like, okay, well, how much do they want for that? $25,000 each. Okay. All right, what do we do?
Make an offer.
Buy it.
Let's buy it. We're in that car going to New Orleans. So we called,
Four ways.
we were going the right direction.
Yeah, you're going towards the middle way.
So we actually didn't. We got to New Orleans and one of the commercial agents in our office at that time, we sat down with her and we're like, hey, this came up, like, we have no clue, like, what's the next step? Like, what do we do? How do you, because we called Jason, we're like, yeah, we're interested. He's like, send a letter of intent. I'm like, what's that? Say what we need to send a letter of intent. Okay, Charlotte, can you help us? What is that? She's like, come on. We sat at the hotel lobby, wrote a letter of intent, sent it. I'm sorry, they wanted 30,000. We sent a letter, we're like, we'll give you 25,000 for each. They came back and said, it's yours. And we're like, oh, we haven't even seen it. So, after the reunion, we stopped by Carolyn. It was late at night. Of course, it's a foreclosed property. So we stopped at CVS, we got some flashlights, we got there, boards, they were, a couple of the windows were boarded up. The place didn't look that. So we got out with our flashlights, went into one, we're like, okay, yeah, it's exact, let's go. Boom, we left, we didn't spend more than 15 minutes there. We had to go, like, we didn't know the place, we didn't know anything, right? So we came back and yeah, we became the proud owners of six townhomes. We had to build that parking deck you see in the back. We had to build that. It was not there, so there wasn't any place for tenants to park. This end unit had the front windows were broken. There were a couple of things that we needed to do. So all in all, I think our full expense on each was about 30,000 once everything said and done. We had to work with the city manager to, show them they had trouble in this community. So show them that we were in it, like we were in it to win it, basically. And through that relationship still today pays off. Like they know Luis by name at the city. They call him like, hey, your tenant came in and they're disconnecting the water. Is everything okay? And Luis didn't know anything about it. So now he can call the tenant and say, hey, what's going on? Like you're disconnecting the water. That's all through those relationships that he has built. I can't say we have built. He has built because he's the one that deals with all of that. So today, our average cash flow, monthly cash flow from those properties is about $6,500. That just,
You gotta, like, how do you get a loan on a property like that?
we did cash flow.
Oh, you pay cash. But I feel like that's low, 6,480. How come?
Each one rents for about $1,200.
Okay. And then all the costs to manage it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have money saved for expenses.
Right.
Things are gonna break. You have to account for vacancy.
Right,
So we have some money left. So by the time we take those expenses
And the average.
expenses out, it averages to about that.
Okay.
So that was our first, toe in the ground. So it took us 2006 when we got out of debt to 2010. So when we were able to do that, right?
And probably the value of the property is way more than $30,000.
Right, each one right now is worth about 170,000. More or less.
And you
So. What's
You
that?
pay 25 for each, or 30,
30.
but you put 30 into each one.
If we wish we knew now then what we know now, there were not the whole building like we did, but there were other ones that were for sale. We should have picked up every single, we should have bought the entire community, there's 99 townhomes in the community. We should have bought everybody out. It would be, Luis knows the number, I think he said 9 million, I don't know, something like that, it would be worth that. No, 20 million, I don't know, something like that. Okay, this is our newest acquisition. We bought a house here in Norcross. It's our first mortgage property, so it's a little bit, it feels weird, right? Because then I look at our monthly profit, I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem that good, but it is very good, and the story is really good, which that's part of what helps makes us the decisions, is the story behind what we're doing. Like, what is it, right? Where did it come from? This house, remember I told you our team has grown and shrunk multiple times? Our very first assistant, Victoria. She was the greatest. She was then a buyer's agent / assistant for a little while. And then she decided to have a baby. So she decided she wanted to spend her time, you know them, right? Spend her time at home with her husband and her baby. This is the house that she grew up in. So she called in February and said, hey, her mom passed away about a year and a half ago. Dad was living here. They live up in Hamilton Mill now. You know, if Dad gets sick in the middle of the night, it takes a while for her to get here. So they decided it was gonna be best for Dad to move in with them. So she called and said, hey, can you come list the property? And I said, sure. And so I go, I didn't know where it was or what it looked like, I have no idea. So I walk in there and I started touring the house. They did some really cool things to the house. And we get to the master bedroom. That was the last place that we were touring, right? The master bedroom. And when we were talking there, I'm like, okay, do you have any other questions? One said, no, we're good. I'm like, well, why are you selling it? Like, you need to keep this. You need to keep this, and you need to rent it. Your dad will have that extra income every month. And I tried very hard for them not to sell that property because I knew that it was going to be a fabulous rental property. And emotionally, it wasn't the right thing for them to do. They had too many memories with them growing up there, and they figured that it was going to be hard for them to see somebody else living there, destroying the property or whatever the case might be. So then we decided to buy it. So even though we do have the cash to buy it in cash, again, kind of our benefit versus our risk, we decided that it was the right time to try for a mortgage property. So about $650 is going to be our monthly return. We're about to list it for rent. So we'll see. But the story is great, right? It has meaning to us. Plus, if any of you know Luis, you know that he like really takes care of stuff, and he like really, he's a perfectionist. He won't let things go by the sideline. For example, our Carrollton building, we have a landscaper that goes every other week and takes care of the yard. We have an HVAC company that goes every quarter to check on the filters and the systems and whatever. When a property goes vacant, Luis goes and does the move out and has found really disgusting things. And he has become an expert on pest management, knows the guy at the pest, chemical place, and calls him and says, hey, I found this, what is this? Oh, don't worry, I'll give you the products or whatever. So there is effort to keep up your places, but because we keep up our place so nicely, the city manager is in our pocket, the ladies at the utility companies are in our pocket. We give them a little gift at the end of the year. If we hear that something happened in their life, we send them flowers, whatever the case might be. It's a business. It is a business. and we run it like we run our real estate business. Yeah.
How much are you gonna ask for that, for rent?
That's a Luis question, but I think 2,900. 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom, a shed in the back, great for tools. So, okay, so that's part of our passive income. We have a couple other businesses that also generate passive income, but we're focusing on the real estate part right now. And then we get to the gift part. The gift part, I told you, I shared the story about St. Jude. So these are just a couple of examples that I was able to get. We have, at the hospital, there are a couple of plaques that they can put up in our name with the donations that we give. Every year, we've had the privilege to go to the hospital and tour the hospital a couple of times. I'm part of the board here in Atlanta that helps put events together to fundraise. And let me tell you something, as much of a hard time I have going into Louis and writing a check for $3,000 for a bag, I have no problem writing a $10,000 check to them. It just makes my heart so warm. And having visited the hospital and walked around and talking to the families and seeing the difference that our donations make to these families, it's just, I can't even explain it. It's just.
I just became a supporter as well, that's good. And the, they love the message.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it.
So fine, this is it for us. Find something that makes you passionate. It's ultimately, it helps you go through those hard days where you're like, I just want to go buy this, or I just want to do this. And you're following your budget, you're following whatever it is, the goal that you're achieving at the moment. When you have these things to look at, it just makes such a big difference, right? So fine, this is what it is for us, but find whatever it is for you. Obviously, that's the ultimate goal, right? I don't even have to say it. Alex is the light of our life. We live through him, we live by him. We want to make him, want to make the best memories with him right now when he's young, but we also want to empower him and give him the education and the tools so that he can be a successful human being in whatever he chooses to do. He's an avid soccer player, most of you know that. So we take our trips. We've been to a lot of the stadiums in Europe. That's what we like to do. And I played soccer, so I like it too. Luis tags along, so he's a good company. We love traveling. So we take our big trips and we take time away from our business. But the efforts that we put up front long time ago gives us the opportunity and the freedom to do this. Now, we're at the Atlanta United Stadium, like we're our second home. Alex is into Formula One. He races go-karts. He's a state champion. So, you know, that's we spend a lot of money and time on doing that. Last year we went to the US Grand Prix in Austin. We went to the French Grand Prix in Le Castellet. This year we're going to Austin again. We're going to the Monaco Grand Prix. He doesn't know that's a surprise. Luis loves the Le Mans race. If you've heard of the 24 hours of Le Mans,
Yeah.
that's Luis's thing. That's what he loves. Well, this year is the 100th anniversary and we're going to the race. I love tennis. We're going to the French Open. You know, that's what we work for, to have those moments. Now, when we're here, we're all in. We're gonna work hard. We're gonna do what we're supposed to do. We're gonna take a look at our budget. You know, we don't keep a budget like we did in 2006. We don't, but we still look at our numbers every month. Like, where are we? What are we doing? What are we doing with this money? Where is it going? You know, and right. And your family, you have to look at your family's money as a business. It is a business. I think that's the last line.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions, any comments? I want to hear your ahas. Anyone that has like the next step? Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm interested myself, with investment right now on a property, but, I've been, I don't have a LLC. And then I'm not,
For your business or for,
for my, I don't have a LLC, but I want to purchase a property right now. I want to see if I can get a buyer license. And, but how, if I open the LLC now, could that affect me, or would you just open an LLC right away?
so the first thing I'm gonna say about that is you always have to have a great accountant. And your accountant is gonna lead you where you need to go. So I'll share what we did and how we did it, which is where our accountant led us, right? And it's, we always say, who you're in business with matters. We were so lucky, it was Luis too, that he found this lady when he moved here and he needed to start filing taxes after he got his first job. He went to Beaufort Highway and saw Jackson Hewitt and walked in there, and it just so happened that this lady, Mary, helped him to file his taxes. So Luis is the most loyal person. The most loyal person. You do a good job for him, he will stick with you to the end of the earth. You cross him, not so much. So,
Be nice to.
be nice to them. So we have continued to visit with Mary, right? So when I started my business, I didn't have a business. I didn't have an LLC, I didn't have a business account, I didn't have all the things that we're supposed to have. Until Luis joined. When Luis joined me, that's when Mary said, okay, now you cannot do this business anymore as a sole proprietor, which is in essence what I was before. Have to run it like a business now. So that's when we opened our first LLC. That's when we opened our first LLC business account, and we started running the business from there. When we bought our properties, each property has its own LLC. Each property has its own banking account. And then we kept filing our taxes, and then there was this one year that we had to pay a lot of money, like a lot of money. And Mary said, it's time to change. Now we still are an LLC, but we're choose to be filed as an tax as an S corporation. So, but Mary has taken us that way.
You said five as a what?
S corporation. So now it's more intricate where you have to really separate your expenses and keep track of your expenses, but you get some tax benefits for filing as an S corporation. But your accountant will tell you when it's time to do those changes. So find a great accountant. That's what we have done, and that's how it has worked. And every time we go, she pushes us for something different. Like every year, she's like, okay, what's the goal for this year? Like, okay, like this year, for example, we're like, okay, Alex is 12. We have 6 years before he has to go to college. What are we doing? Like, how much money do we have? I don't know. He might want to go to Stanford, he might want to go to Georgia Tech or UGA, and it might be cheaper, but I don't know. It's still gonna cost him. So we already have been saving, but not as much as we think it's really gonna cost. So this year, that was our focus. And she's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And then do it.
To pay, like to involve Alex.
Oh, well, that's another thing. So this year, Alex became an actual employee of our business.
Right.
So he has a payroll and he has his IRA and he has his responsibilities that he has to fulfill for being an employee of our business. But it's one step at a time. You have to go one step at a time. You can't do it all at once. and you have to find the right person to do it. We're very lucky, Mary actually retired, and out of her, I don't know how many clients she had, she decided to keep, I think about 10. And we were so lucky that she decided to keep us. So we're one of the few, and I want to believe that because she has seen us grow, I think she wants to continue to see her creation. I always tell her, we are a creation of you, because we follow whatever you say we need to do. Somebody else, yeah.
So like one of the main pillars of Dave Ramsey is that, you know, as you know, he doesn't like credit, he doesn't like debt. But for a lot of people, if they want to have investment properties, you know, leveraging themselves and getting a loan, a lot of the time is a part of that equation. You just recently took out a loan on your new investment property. So I was wondering, you know, kind of what are your Dave Ramsey,
Tweaks.
tweaks as far as, you know, getting a loan or using credit to your advantage?
Okay, that's a great question. So once we got fully out of debt, and I didn't mention this, when we were in that process, our credit card, we kept our credit cards, but we put them in a Ziploc bag, filled it with water, and stuck it in the fridge, in the freezer. So if we needed to use our credit card, it would take days, right? Unless we put it in the microwave, but.
Couldn't,
microwave
because the
is
chips,
slow.
you
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, so. It took a while
And under hot
for us to
water.
be able to, it's kind of the same idea as having the savings account somewhere else, right? You don't want it accessible, so we kept them. But once we were fully out of debt, and we knew by that time we had the discipline and the control of doing what we were supposed to do to not get back in debt, then we started using our credit cards again, and we still do. We pay them off at the end of the month.
Yeah.
We still know, I mean, we know what our expenses are, so we still budget for it, so we use the credit card, pay it off at the end of the month. Use the credit card, pay it off at the end of the month. And we have a business American Express and a personal American Express. And that's it. We don't have anything else.
Gotcha. But I guess like when taking out a loan, you know, what are kind of the checkpoints or your personal checklist to know if this makes sense, I guess? I mean, how do you get to a point where you know that you're not over leveraging?
So for example, on that, the newest property that we bought,
Yeah.
the return on investment, according to the numbers on that, was gonna be about a 10%,
10%.
right? And our
Which is a
interest
lot.
rate. Right.
Right now, most investors should be happy with a 6 or 7%.
Which at that point, I would probably not get a loan, right? Because our interest rate on that loan is 6.99%. We have a 10% return. I am making 3%. Plus the equity that accrues over time. So that's our philosophy. If we're gonna make more than what it's gonna cost, then we can get the debt. If you start listening to other investors like Bigger Pockets or whatever, they call it the good debt. That's a good
Yeah,
debt to have.
Yeah,
And back then, my best friend's husband, he's a serious investor, like he's managed retirement funds for countries, right? He's like really good, and he would always debate with me like, no, what you're doing is so stupid, you need to invest, and it doesn't matter that you have the debt. And I told him, listen, I understand, but I don't know the stock market. Like even with this, every time we're gonna do something, I always call him like, hey, what do you think about this? And a lot of times he tells me, don't do it. Don't do it. You can invest in this or in that and get this much. And I'm like, yeah, that freaks me out. I have no idea how to do that. It would take me a while to learn. Real estate, I know that. So if I'm gonna get the same return from real estate than the stock market, I am going to choose real estate. Because that's what I know, that's where I'm comfortable. Plus, this is something he has not been able to debate back with me. I always tell him, with a rental property, I know exactly how much money is gonna come to me every single month. No ifs, buts, or anything. It's gonna be the same amount unless they don't pay, but it's gonna be the same amount. With the stock market, you don't know. This month you might get a lot, next month you might get nothing, you don't know, so you can't really count it for cash flow for everyday purposes. So that's, that answer your question? Somebody had a question?
So I think it's really important, like you say, to know yourself and know what you're comfortable with, because some people could be completely comfortable, you know, with a lot of leverage, a lot of debt, as long as it's producing and everything. You're really young, so you have time on your hands.
Do it now.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Plus, your commitments are probably a lot smaller than somebody that has, you know, family and kids, and so.
Right,
You
yeah.
start now.
That's why I'm using my credit card, you know, I'm not paying it now.
Saving young,
You know, my
and
credit
keep
card.
the smallest amount. And by the time you're older, it's just worth so much. I mean, my husband and I were just talking the other night, it's like, I wish we had started doing what we do
When I was
so much
young,
sooner.
So
Yeah.
from an actuarial standpoint, if you save $1,000 a year from age 22 to 32, and then continue with whatever you saved up to 32, saving at like 6%, 7% interest, so you retire at 65, you'll have more money than if you wait till you're 32 to start saving 1,000. And you start save 1,000 every year till you're 65.
Yeah.
So saving,
Compounding.
so the time that you have that money is so important. So if you're younger, you need to be consistent in your savings as much as you can for at least 10 years.
We just did those numbers with Alex, right? So I'll just share, like he hears that all the time, right? In our house, what you hear is real estate. Like even when he was like a lot smaller and we had kids, like we had friends in the car and I got a phone call, he would say, shh, it's a business call, can't talk. Like he knows, like when it's business time, it's business time. And he goes with us and puts signs up, and when we send our mailers, he sits down and closes envelopes and puts postage stamps, whatever. Like he is part of the business, and we explain to him, you wanna do all these fun things we do? We have to take care of this, because if we don't have this, we can't do that. So you have to be part of it. But now that he's actually an employee of the business, you know, we had to sit down with him and say, okay, now we signed, not a contract, because he can't sign a contract because he's underage, but we signed an agreement on an employment agreement where we said, these are your responsibilities. So you'll see him on Facebook. Part of his responsibilities are doing a video every month or with whatever he comes up with. So who knows? But, and we actually, you know, we explained, this is gonna be your salary. And again, a lot came from our accountant. So his salary is the standard deduction, right? That's gonna be his salary. So he was gonna be paying zero taxes. When you're employed by a mom and dad business, you don't have to pay Medicaid or Social Security taxes either. So he truly has zero taxes. So it's a business deduction for us, but yet it's a zero tax for him. He can use that income for whatever he wants.
What is it, like 12?
13,860 for 20. So 6,500 of that is gonna go to a Roth IRA, right? So it's zero taxes that go into that account that's gonna grow with zero taxes. And we made that calculation, $6,500 that are gonna go into that IRA a year at about an average 10% return. By the time he's 56 or something like that, he was like 14 years old. It's like something from like, oh my God.
We all knew.
Maybe
Yeah.
sick to my stomach that I didn't start earlier.
I'm gonna share something for the younger people in the room, and this is something that we did. Our
Yeah.
son goes to Kennesaw, and we bought a house 1 mile off campus. So it's our son, and he has 2 roommates. The 2 roommates provide positive cash flow for us, and there are no expenses for his living.
His room and board.
his room and board. That has to come out of his, 529. So that's just when you're younger, you know, like I said, I wish so many of these things that we had known younger. So that's one to think about, if you have kids or think about kids or don't have them yet.
Yep.
Make a difference for us.
Or you like kids.
Or you, yeah.
Or you like,
Well, there's some folks that.
nieces and nephews?
Would you just like, yeah, make that, I mean, I've had 2 people call me, friends of ours, hey, Allison, are any of your, rooms available in your house? I'm like, no. So what am I doing? I'm looking for another house. I'm sorry now.
Yeah.
Well, and so many people bought folks that bought anywhere from 2009 forward, their kids started talking more about real estate, right? Their kids were going to college, they kept their house for 4 years, their kids went. Well, now they've kept those properties and continued to rent them, so why not do the reverse? Buy something now, start renting it out, and then when your kids and your nieces, nephews, et cetera, you'll have that property for them then. And like you said, if we only knew then what we would have, what a difference life would be.
And the other thing is, we bought in our son's names, we bought a house for both kids and bought it in their name so that they're establishing that credit. So money signed, kids with no income.
Well, I remember there was a time when my husband and I were talking about like all the things like we wish we had done and not have done. But we bought a townhome for my daughter at some point when she was in college, and she had roommates, and it was positive cash flow. But I wish we talked about doing it earlier, before they even went to college. And we're like, well, we don't know where they're gonna go. But the thing is, if you do it, let's say, okay, I don't know if my kid's gonna go to Georgia, but they might. They're gonna buy an investment property in Athens for a while, and if they decide they're not gonna go there, they're gonna go to Savannah. Then do a 1031 exchange and then buy something somewhere else. You don't have to pay capital gains on it, and so there's no reason why you have to wait until your kid is in college to buy it.
So you have to have a team of people that help you plan these things out. You need a great CPA, you need a great estate planner. Like once you start having businesses, once you start having properties, you need an estate planner, and especially when you have children, and a great attorney.
Mine's simple, but you mentioned your world changed when you and Luis put together that budget together and put that input, and I'm guilty of, I'll go through, I've got this beautiful spreadsheet, I go through Amex, you know, my bank account, put together this budget, bring it to my wife and say, hey, here's the budget for the year, and then we're struggling to sometimes meet that. So just making sure that your spouse is involved in that budget, has input on it is huge.
It has to be buy-in from both. If there's no buy-in from both, it's not gonna work. One is always gonna be upset with the other one. So yeah, and let me tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy because you each have your own perspective on money, and you each have different goals, right? So you have to negotiate, and there's gonna be hard times. I'm telling you, we are both Latin. You do not want to be in our company. That's just the way we are. But it will be tough. It is tough. It is tough. But it's so rewarding after that. So rewarding. I look back now, I'm like, wow. What a difference. What a difference. Our life, 2006, again, pivotal year in our life, for sure. For sure.
So Michelle, what would it take for you to do that training, 13 weeks training here again?
I have been thinking about that, and I think it's the right time to do it. I need to call the Dave Ramsey office and find out what needs.
Could even look into doing it for Neymar. Just not just our office, but the whole.
That would be a great thing to do. Yeah. That would be, hey, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. So I need to call and find out what needs. You have homework and you get to do your homework. Mike was part of that class when we did it a while back, so. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say saved my life, but it changed my life.
Totally changes your perspective.
That was $91,000 to hang on your wall.
So you're welcome to stop by in our office at the end of the class. So part of the class is you cut up your credit cards because you're not supposed to be using them. So we had a big bowl and it was like at the beginning of the session, like who's cutting up something? And people would come up and get the scissors and cut the credit cards and put them in there. And then I don't know whose idea it was, it might have been yours. I don't know whose it was, but at the end of the class, they took all those credit cards, took them to someone that made a collage with the credit cards and framed it for us. So we have that hanging in our office and it's really meaningful to us because we feel that we were able to help someone, just like the couple that taught the class when we took it for the first, well, when we took it, we have only taken it once. Made an impact and we keep paying it forward, right? So today's a mini version. And hopefully you have.
You know, my aha, just listening to people is, and I'm gonna ask, and a lot of you, like, the one thing that a dying person says is the word "I wish." And I heard that it's been a fundamental, conversation in here is "I wish." And I'm gonna challenge y'all to do it. There's other ways. Matter of fact, if you have no money, there are ways you're in the real estate space. I talked about that at a meeting yesterday. There's ways to make purchases and to have cash flow. And I'm gonna challenge you, really start looking outside of just the day-to-day buying and selling real estate. This office will evolve into a wealth building office. We're gonna talk about that. My new concept, we're in the real estate space, whether it be title, whether it be mortgage, whether it be painters, no matter what it is, financial, we're in the real estate space. And you have a great opportunity to build massive wealth. The reason I always talk about Michelle is because I am a person that doesn't like coaches who have never physically done something, but yet they're great communicators. Michelle is a living, breathing attribute to the wealth building spectrum, and she's doing it and continues to do it. So I applaud you for sharing what you're doing now and what it's been able to do for you and your family. And I think you're just on the journey, starting this journey, because we all know what 8 through 12 look like, and the wealth that we've been able to accumulate the last 8 years. Plus, it's in a different situation, right? And you did it. So I would challenge all of you that said, "I wish," is like, just go do it. Like literally just pour into it. A lot of you know I had a Porsche. I got my own pickup truck now. Because my thought process changed. I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well, thank you all for coming.
That was great, Michelle.
It'd be so much richer.
I know.
It was industrial.
We had.
That's what happened. In my household, I have to.
Yeah, so I guess.